Hey, Chuck here with Apple Drains. Let me show you how easy it really is to add a toilet to your shower house. Bring that water down into a sump basin with a sewage grinder pump and then pump that water all the way to your septic tank.
So here's the water coming from the new toilet all the way to the septic tank, and you can see it comes straight out. What a great DIY video.
This is a great DIY video, truly save you thousands and thousands of dollars. So let's start by rewinding the video to the very beginning because this was the hardest part.
Okay, back to the beginning. Remember that we have to have a water supply for any of this to work. So we are jet drilling a well. And I know I said this is very difficult and hard to do, but actually this took less than half a day and we had water. So now we can use this water for the shower house and many other things. This was a very popular video, and if you want to learn how to drill a well all by yourself, jet drill a well, the fastest way to get water, I'll put the link in the description box so that you can easily follow it, and it is a great video. I hope that you watch it.
This was the fastest I've ever drilled a well, and that is using that mud pump and reducing from 2 inch to 1 inch, and just, you saw how fast that just dug right down through there, no problem at all. So I finally got the water line from the well all the way back here to the shower house, underneath of the walkway and into the shower house. So now we've got a brand new well and we're going to add the toilet. And like I said, this is one of the easiest projects that you can do and probably one of the most rewarding. And the savings, if you do this yourself, truly thousands of dollars. Take a look at this. So you can see the hole I dug, and our basin fits nicely inside. This is the inlet line for the toilet, the flange of the toilet where it's going to discharge. We're going to put a grinder pump in here. It is a 3/4 horsepower pump and it grinds up all the solids, all the waste. We'll use a 2-inch discharge, still coming out underground, maybe come through this nipple, and then trench, like I said, all the way around. Can't see it from here, but all the way around to the other sump pump. That pump lifts it up and sends it to the septic tank about 200 feet away. So the next thing we're going to do is measure for the flange. Where does that flange go? There's actually a code to help you understand that.
Okay, let's go ahead and measure for the hole that we need to put in the floor for the flange of the toilet. It needs to be 12 inches from the finished wall. That's to the center of the flange. So I'm making some measurements. You can see, just checking the sides.
14 and a half.
It's 14.5 inches across, 14.5 inches across on this side. Now we want to make the mark 12 inches from the finished wall. And then we'll go ahead and drill a hole right through the floor and add this flange. Always double check before you make that final measurement. I'm going to trace around the flange, and then we're going to use a hole saw and drill right through this floor. It'll be a perfect hole and fit perfectly as we put this together. Okay, we're going to use a 4-inch hole saw. This is the exact outer diameter of that flange. I'm also using a Hart cordless drill from Walmart, and boy does it work good. Keep that area very clean underneath of that flange. That way it will seat properly onto your wood. Perfect. Now we're ready to go ahead and secure that flange to the wood. I'm using 1.5-inch construction wood screws, and any type that you have will be fine. You'll notice that I'm spreading them evenly around the flange to make sure that that thing stays down tight. I'm not going to caulk underneath of it, and the reason why is because we're going to use a wax ring for the seat. The wax ring works, in my opinion, much better than these newer products on the market. And I get asked that question a lot. Why don't you use the new forever plastic seats because I have used these wax rings for 30 plus years. And you know what? They are great. Not only do they seal well, but notice how that toilet bowl kind of fell over. Well, we can use some of the wax and spread it down to help hold that toilet bowl upright. That makes it so much easier as you go to set the toilet down across the top of those bolts. Okay, now it's time to lift up this toilet and set it down over top of those bolts onto the wax ring. And this is a little bit tough to do, but not that hard. The toilet's heavy, but once you line up those holes with the toilet bolts, it will slide on there perfectly. Once it's set down onto the wax ring, simply put your body weight, sit down on the toilet, wiggle it around, and that is seated, and it is seated very well. When you set the toilet bolt and the nut, make sure you put the washers on. There's a little plastic washer that it goes on there, then you put on the nut. And you can break this toilet bolt off and you'll be able to put a cap that snaps onto that washer.
So the next thing we need to do is actually trench under the shower house to put in the sewer line. Bring the sewer pipe, the 3-inch pipe, over to the sump basin. Remember, I've already dug the hole. We've got the basin already set, but we need to bring that sewer pipe over. Most important thing to remember here is you need to have a vent. That vent is very important. As you flush the toilet, all the air that's in front of that water coming down needs to be going up and above your roof. So kind of tough digging under here. A little bit of roots, but we're getting it.
Okay, now we just need to finish this trench. It needs to go a little deeper and a little wider, and then we'll have this and ready to lay some pipe.
There we go. That should do it. Let me bring that camera over here and you can see what I'm getting to. So you can see up there is the toilet flange, comes down to our trench. Right here, there's going to be a vent that comes up, goes through and all the way to the roof, but we needed to get it down to this level to cut that nipple off and bring the 3-inch pipe into the sump basin, where we'll have a pump that will lift it up, and it's going to send it. Got to trench all this all the way to the next sump pump. Okay, next we need to bring in the water supply. The water that's going to fill up the tank of the toilet. We're going to actually connect to our new water line from the well, and that's going to be our supply. So take a look at this.
Okay, let's widen up this hole to accept 1/2-inch PVC. We need to bring that water line up and also make the connection down below.
So that'll be a really good fit when I put the T on there. Let's go ahead and turn the water off, cut this pipe, put the T on, bring that water line up so we can get that toilet ready to go.
Okay, let's loosen up the supply so that we have a little bit of play to cut this T and put this pipe together.
So now we've got some good play in here, and I'll be able to make a cut here and push them together.
Okay. Using your pipe cutters, go ahead and cut where you want to put that T. Remember that there's about 140 feet of 1/2-inch pipe from the well to this point. So we need to let that water drain out. Once that water's drained out, we can easily attach the T. If you've never worked in PVC pipe and you're trying for the first time, you know what? You're going to love it. This is the easiest to work in, much better than copper, much easier than galvanized, and it works so well and lasts so long. So once we have the T installed, I'm sliding the 1.5 inch pipe up through the floor, and we're just going to glue that to the T. Inside, when we come back inside, we will put on the shutoff valve, and the toilet is ready to go. It's really that simple. We're using an all-in-one cement. That means it has a primer built in. And once we push this pipe together, it is solid. It will set up within seconds. So make sure that everything's plumb and ready to go. As soon as you put that glue in there, this will set up. It will weld together.
Perfect. So we've got our T connected, coming up through the floor. Now we're ready to put that toilet water line on.
Okay, once again, using your pipe cutters, cut this pipe off just a few inches above the floor. Now we're going to put on the shutoff valve. And this has two pieces. One is the 1/2 inch male threaded adapter, and that will adapt to your shutoff valve. You can see I'm just putting the glue on, tightening it down. Remember, once that glue touches the next piece, it will weld together and it's set. It's ready to go. Now we're hooking up the toilet supply line. This has a 3/8 inch compression fitting that hooks to the water shutoff, and then we hook it up to the toilet tank itself. Do not over tighten this, just hand tight. That's all you need, and this is ready to go.
Okay, so from the water line coming up, we come up toilet supply connected to the tank. Now we're ready to turn the water back on and look for leaks. Putting in the vent line, that is not an easy task, but it's not hard. And when you see how I've done it, you'll have your own ideas of what you can do to bring your vent in. Remember, I'm using a 2-inch vent, and it's going to come up through the wall, and it's actually going to come out the side and then up above the roof. Let's go ahead and plumb this down from that flange. And I'm using an all-in-one cement. We're going to go around the outside. We're also going to go inside of this 3-inch coupling, if you can see that. And we're going to slide that right up on there. Perfect. So now we need a measurement. We need a measurement from this coupling down to this 90, and then we're going to put a 2-inch vent. So I've got the elbow sweeping backwards so the air can come out, and it'll go right up through the joist, right on up to the roof. Okay, here we go. Inside of this coupling, outside of the pipe, and line it up.
It takes a little bit of work to get this pipe into that fitting, but once you have it in there, it is set and secure. Now we're setting up the final portion of the sump basin. I'm cutting off that nipple so we can bring the 3-inch pipe straight into the sump basin.
So I put a 90 on there at the end, and you can see we've got a nice drop coming down right into our sump basin. Sump pump's going to lift it up and send it out. So I just cut a small piece of 2-inch pipe. This is actually going to be part of the vent system for the toilet. And you can see it down here. Can you see that? That's the vent. It's going to come up through the wall and come up out through the top. So I just need a short piece to get started down into it. Then we'll put a coupling on it inside, all inside the wall. And of course you won't see any of this when I put back the skirting that goes around the bottom of the shower house. So I already pre-drilled the hole that goes through, and we're just going to slide this down and let it sit down on top of the stack below.
We're almost done. All we need to do is connect this vent and send it up through the wall. Remember, everything's pre-drilled, so now we're just gluing it together. I had to use a little piece of offset here because it was a little bit offset from going straight up through the wall. So I cut a small piece, and I'm using a no-hub adapter to give it some play so that it runs perpendicular straight up through the wall. Real simple to do, took me an extra minute, but we're almost done. A no-hub adapter is a hard piece of rubber with stainless steel clamps, and it's used as a coupling, and it's permanent, but it does give a little bit of flex in the pipe. So now we can send the line straight up through the wall, use our handy dandy drill, our little 5/16" nut driver, and tighten up these clamps. Once they're tight, this is super secure. It will not come apart, and it's perfect. Remember, the vent line is actually inside the wall. There is a panel that's going to cover all of this. Everything that you see here will not be seen at all. There's a skirt that goes around, and there's also a panel that hides it inside the shower house.
So because I'm a little offset, I went ahead and used a no-hub just to give it the play that's needed so we can be perpendicular, run straight up the wall. This is all going to get covered. You're not going to see any of it. It's just a vent.
Here where the line comes out and goes up above the roof, we're simply gluing the last few pieces together. We've got a couple of 90s that are inside the wall. We're adding one more 90 here at the end of the pipe, and then we'll bring a riser up above the roof. The code calls for this to come up above the roof so that no sewer gas can get back into your dwelling, or your shower house in this case.
So we brought the vent, out and then up above the roof. Need to clean off our roof. Another project, right? Okay, so we brought the vent up and out. Let's go inside and take a look. We've got the vent coming up from the sewer. Comes up, and I reduced it to 1.5 inches, should be fine. Drilled through 2 places to bring the 90 through, and we're all set. Okay. All done using our super high-tech shop vac. It's really important to have a good pump, a grinder pump. It's really important to have a good pump. I recommend that you do use a Zoller pump. The grinder pump, they're not cheap. They're $500 to $600. But wow, if you can get this pump, you can find them at Lowe's if you're lucky. But if you can get this pump, it'll grind up all the waste, the toilet paper, everything, and be able to pump it as far as you want. We're pumping it about 80 feet to another sump basin, and from that basin is being pumped all the way up to the septic tank. And I'll show you that here in just a second. This is Zoller 263, M263, and it is a sewer pump. So it's a grinder, and it has a 2-inch discharge. It sets up the same way if you've seen my other videos. We've got a male threaded adapter. We're just going to screw that on there hand tight. Don't need a wrench. That's good. I've already cut a small riser and secured it to the check valve. Can you see the check valve? Has an arrow. That means that water can only flow one direction. And especially since it's a sewer pump, you know, all that sewage, we don't want the sewage dropping back down into the pit. So we're going to glue this piece on. This is an all-in-one cement. Nice and tight. Remember, arrows point upwards. Don't forget that. Before we put the next riser on, we're going to set this down in the pit because we need to drill a hole for the 2-inch pipe that's going to come out. This pipe's going to come out underground. Then we're going to pump it to the next sump basin. We also need to drill a small 3/16" hole for a pressure relief so it doesn't get airlocked. Okay. So this is 2.5-inch drill bit, and we're going to drill a hole right up here at the top. That is for our 2-inch discharge, and it's a perfect fit. Can you see that? Slides right in. Let's set that pump down in there, and then we'll make the measurement from the top of that check valve to the 90. This pump is pretty heavy, don't forget. That looks pretty good. So we need a measurement from 90 down to the inside of that coupling. We'll do that right now. I'm just going to use this coupling and transfer the measurement . Looks good. Let's go ahead and glue that up. Looks good. Tighten up this clamp. Perfect. So now we're ready to plug it in, but we're not going to do that yet. We're going to go ahead and set the lid back on. Okay, here's our shower house, and you can see where I brought the 3-inch waste line down and a 2-inch vent that's coming back up, and it comes out right here and goes above the roof. Water from that toilet goes down into this sump basin. There is a grinder pump, a Zoller grinder pump. It grinds up all the solids, all the waste, even toilet paper. Temporarily, I've just got this line laying on top of the ground. I've still got to get back here and trench it, but I want to show you where it goes, and you can see how long it is. Please excuse the little bit of a mess here. We've been working. I've got our 1065 out here. It's kind of windy, blew some of our tarps around, but it dumps into a clean out right here, and here is the second pump. This pump's already been in the ground. I did have a couple of people that lived here in their RVs, and they were parked here, so I put all this together, brought them all out, 100 amp service, so that they had everything they needed to actually live here on the property. But this basin here also has a grinder pump in it, so it was able to pick up all the waste and solid, grind it up, and what it's doing is it's pumping it all the way to the septic tank. This is an above ground tank with an above ground drain field. 2-inch pipe, and it comes right into the septic tank. Let me see if I can open that up. I need a pry bar. So from this septic tank, that line comes all the way to this tank. It's about 120 feet. This is an above ground tank, so there's an above ground septic mound. We're walking down the hill. Let's go over here by the tank, by the first sump pump. Remember, it's also a grinder pump. So as we flush the toilet in the shower house, you can see that water comes all the way out to here. This is also a grinder pump, lifts it up and sends it all the way to the main septic tank. So we've got about 80 feet here of 2-inch pipe. We're going to trench that, put that underground so that it becomes more permanent and of course out of the way. But you can see the long run, the rise that would come up the hill all the way down to the tank itself. This is a septic basin, and it's got a grinder pump in it that grinds up all the solids, all the waste, vent line, and here's our shower house, and there's the vent coming out to help that air escape. So if you remember, I just had to make that repair behind that wall where that riser from the spigots froze and broke. Now we have a really great little toilet that we can flush. Water comes from our new supply line. You can hear it flushing. It works great. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.